I now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Thank you, President. I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3 Plus members, namely Guyana, Mozambique, Sierra Leone, and my own country, Algeria. We wish to thank the US Presidency for scheduling this important meeting to discuss the deeply concerning situation in Sudan. We want to convey our thanks to Mrs. Edem Wozornu for giving us deep insight into the humanitarian situation on the ground, and also for her dedication to the population in need in Africa and all over the world. We listened carefully to the remarks made by Mrs. Shaina Lewis and Mr. Saad Bahraddin, Sultan of the Masalit. Finally, we welcome the participation of the permanent representatives of Sudan, Turkey, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates to this meeting. Mr. President, the situation in Sudan has been an active dossier in our agenda since the start of the conflict, particularly during the year 2024. During this year, our Council deployed important effort to contribute to the de-escalation of tensions and bring the parties to a ceasefire agreement. But in vain. Despite these sustained efforts, we are still witnessing a continued deterioration of the situation on the ground. The latest reports on fighting in Al-Fashar, in Khartoum, in Al Jazeera, and in Sennar are appalling. Hundreds of innocent civilians have been killed, and critical health infrastructures have been destroyed. Additionally, the recent reports of large-scale killings, abductions, rapes, and attacks against civilians in South Kordofan by the Rapid Forces leave us speechless. Women and girls are unfortunately among the main targets. They are frequently subjected to unspeakable violation and suffering. In this regard, we wish to commend the resilience of Sudanese women, and we call for all perpetrators of human rights violations to be held accountable. Mr. President, the A3 Plus insists on the need to continue engaging constructively on the Sudanese file and wishes to underline the following. First, an immediate ceasefire is imperative. We reiterate our calls for the Sudanese parties to implement an immediate ceasefire without precondition. Without precondition. We cannot afford to lose more innocent civilians. We cannot afford more displacement, more sexual violence, more food insecurity, destruction, and instability in the region. It is past time that all conflict parties engage in a meaningful, transparent, and Sudanese political process under the umbrella of the United Nations, while keeping the protection of civilians as their main and common objective. Second, engaging in diplomatic effort in good faith. A ceasefire depends primarily on the willingness of the Sudanese parties, but also on the support of regional and international partners. Our Council has to provide further support to good faith diplomatic efforts while insisting on the coordination of this effort and the preservation of the central role of the UN and the African Union. In this regard, we welcome the organization of the third consultative meeting in Mauritania to coordinate regional and international diplomatic effort on the Sudan crisis. Also, we look forward to the announcement of the next round of proximity talks between the Sudanese parties, which will be convened by the Secretary General Personnel Envoy, Ramtan Lamamra, beginning next year. In this regard, we encourage the Sudanese parties to constructively engage in these mediation efforts. Third, the need to continue facilitating humanitarian access. The latest developments on the ground are deeply concerning for all of us due to their impact on the delivery of humanitarian assistance to the population in need, especially women and children, particularly those forcibly displaced or trapped in areas of heavy fighting, or in besieged cities such as El Fasher. Despite the gloomy picture on the ground, we welcome the announcement by the government of Sudan to open airports in Al Ubaid, Kadugli, and at Damazin for humanitarian flights, and the establishment of humanitarian supply hubs at these locations. We also welcome the WFP announcement on 22nd of November of aid finally reaching North Darfur, in particularly food aid delivered to the Zamzam IDP camp. These positive steps came in addition to the recent measures related to the reopening of the Al Adri border crossing and the authorization of humanitarian air operation in South Kordofan. We call on the Sudanese government to sustain these positive steps and further facilitate humanitarian assistance for the benefit of all those who are affected by this tragic situation. Fourth and last, finally putting an end to foreign interferences. We wish to refer to the strong statement made by USG Di Carlo at the same chamber on the role of external actors. And I quote, "To put it bluntly, certain purported allies of the parties are enabling the slaughter in Sudan. This is unconscionable. It is illegal, and it must end." End of quote. We therefore reiterate our call for the strong and public condemnation of foreign interference in Sudan and the full respect of the established sanction regime and the arms embargo by all member states. Mr. President, we conclude by underlining the need for our Council to engage positively and constructively on the situation in Sudan, to support in good faith the peace effort in this important country, to avoid the spillover of this conflict in the region and in the continent. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for their statement.